Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Ardmore Connect. As always, my name is Josh Pagan.
Hi, and I'm Brian Cronin, and with us today we have Tom Hayden. How you doing, Tom?
Hey, Tom.
Doing wonderful. Thank you, Brian. Josh.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you. I know you've been. I've been doing some history on looking up Hayden Printing. You've been around over 40 some years. Am I correct?
Yeah, I don't even want to say that anymore, but this is our 45th year. What it was looking back is I actually started this business right here in Ardmore in high school, and we're still here.
Oh wow, really? Did you? I'm
Wow.
assuming you grew up in Ardmore.
Yeah, I'm an Ardmore guy. I grew up in Ardmore. I kind of begin to learn the trade in Ardmore. I went to St. Coleman's School up the street when they were a school, and in about the seventh grade, I took a job at a print shop in Ardmore.
Wow.
Believe it or not, opening help emptying the trash. It was Donaldson Printing, and they were 49 East Lancaster Avenue, where our Mattis Windows is now. And it was previous to that, it was Suburban Office. But
Oh, wow.
in there was a good-sized print shop. And as a kid, I took that job there, and that led to helping take jobs off machines
Right.
and making deliveries and things like that. So
So
kind of homegrown.
I was going to say, so you must have had a passion for it if you decided to go into the business later in life. I mean, you must have liked it at least a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know whether it was a passion or it's really the only thing I knew to.
Put in a plea,
I knew that. I
technical
knew that was
difficulties.
going to happen.
I know. I saw you. I saw it. I started hearing it, and then I saw you reach, and I was like, "Oh, that's a call."
All right.
You got to.
So getting back into it, how often do you sleep?
I don't. Uh,
Kevin, add
really,
that in there.
being the fire chief is lately it's the equivalent of another full-time job.
So
I,
if
I
you
I
if you
was
don't
going to
mind,
ask
can
you
you
that. Like
go ahead?
how you got yourself involved. Like obviously with Hayden Printing, you said you started out in seventh grade doing printing, working at a print shop. And I wanted to ask you, how did you pivot and get yourself working in a fire department as well?
My father was a fire chief. That was his career, and
Wow.
he's 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. And even my grandfather before that was involved in the Brymore Fire Company. And if you go to the Lancaster Avenue side of the Brymore Fire Company, my grandfather is on the World War I plaque as a member of the Brymore Fire Company.
Wow.
So really, you had asked the passion thing. I think it was to give me the flexibility in Ardmore to be a fireman because printing, I can go to all the fire calls as a
Right.
young lad, and here I am a zillion years later, and I'm still doing it.
And you could
A
print
zillion.
anytime. You can always print anytime, any night, any time of night if you have to catch up, right?
We always get our jobs done. I've had a lot of firemen work for me over the years, and if we go off to a call for 2 hours, we come back and we make sure that our deadlines are handled. So it's
Well, that
flexible. We can work at night.
well, Tom, that's actually an interesting point that you just brought up. You have a lot of firefighters working for you over the years. Now, do you go out and look for firefighters? I mean, do you provide incentives for people that sign up for the fire department? I mean, do you do anything special, or just so happens that firefighters like to work there with you?
Over the years, younger firefighters would like to work with me because they get to go to fires during the day. And if a fireman, they have the
There you
true
go.
passion to help people and serve the community. It just kind of worked hand in hand with the printing company that we could
Yeah.
always run out the door and go help people.
Huh. That's actually a very interesting concept.
It's kind of the way we built our world here.
And it just happens. You just kind of roll into it over time.
Yeah.
So basically, how many years have you been in the fire department since you were
Um,
eighth grade?
Well, as I said, I grew up with it because my dad was a full-time fire chief, and I have the same amount of time in my own business I do the fire department. This is my 45th year, and I've been
Mhm.
chief of the Marion Fire Company of Ardmore here for a little over 21 years.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Wow. That is a decent amount of time. Actually, I've got an off the beaten path type of question for you. I hope
Sure.
you're ready for this one. So your business lies within the printing. Your passion lies within the fire department. If money wasn't a problem for you, what would you do?
Well, you're asking somebody who's a little older. I probably would spend all my time working at the firehouse behind the scenes because of it just doesn't end. There's always something to do, something to take care of administratively, but this way works well. We joke that we could be out delivering your envelopes and 10 minutes later be at your place putting your car phone out.
I was waiting
true.
for that. I was waiting for that to come up at some point in this conversation.
Really the way it works. I know all the business owners, and because I grew up as a kid here in Ardmore, I know all the buildings and a lot of the business owners and the alleys and the shortcuts and the railroad and all of that. And it carries over into my job as the fire chief. It gives me a good heads up in the town.
Now, I want to ask you a question about with regards to printing. Obviously, throughout the years, print has changed dramatically. There used to be a time where we had film and color separations, and now everything is digital. Was that a big change?
You're young. You're young. I started with letterpress.
Oh, all right, yeah. There is letterpress. Do you still offer that service though, if someone needs it? Because I know letterpress seems to be like a sought after thing some people want for like invitations and stuff.
No, letterpress moved on 25 years ago for me, but I still have offset and digital is the main ways that we print.
Right.
Offset for real high quality quantity jobs where it doesn't pay to do a digital. And the digital for real high quality color stuff that say is a lower quantity, say under 5,000, would always be considered digital at this point.
Did you find that doing the transition throughout the years, do you find it be better or about the same as for your end result?
It made life a lot easier. At one point, I had employees on 2 shifts, and we worked 7 days a week because we used to have to make negatives and plates for all of our jobs. So we would have people come in at 5 o'clock in the morning and try to get all the plates ready for, at that point, 7 offset presses. The plate maker and the darkroom person, which were all full-time positions, they'd get it all ready, and then our people would run the equipment all day, and then new people would come in at 4:30 at night and keep running. So those days are over. The digital has made it a lot easier, and really we control our more sophisticated machines with computers, and that's really how we do the real high-quality stuff now.
So you pretty much have less employees now than you had before.
Yes, I do more work with half the staff from the old way of doing printing. The old way was mixing water and concentrate and ink and chemicals, and sometimes I would have 2 people on a press, somebody to load it and unload it, and the pressman to run it. It was really labor intensive and a difficult process. We were all skilled printers back in those days. Now, my offset presses are just maybe smaller ones. I run millions of envelopes in a year, and envelopes are mostly still run offset unless they're full color or there's variable data that are added to them.
So I know you both are in the printing world. For somebody who's not in the business, could you give me an explain like I'm 5 definition of the types of printing that you guys do? Like the type, what was the one? The type, was it? Honestly, I don't even know.
Well, no, it wasn't. He's saying how the process has changed throughout the years. It started out as typeface, and then it went to film, and then it went to
right. But what is? I guess my question is, what is the difference between why would someone want typeface now? Like, is there a special thing about it? I'm just curious. I'm really just curious.
There's a specialty back where he was talking to letterpress and
Not letterpress.
that type of thing is done for die cutting and foil embossing and stuff that's a real specialty. That kind of work would slow me down too much because I'm like a volume guy.
I see.
I describe my business as we not only have this shop on Lancaster Avenue, we have another shop on Spring Avenue full of equipment. It's our production, another production shop. But I describe us as a very large, small printer. And that kind of works for me.
Right.
So if you need, if the buyer needs copies, or they're going to go to a place that's got quick in their business name, or minute or super quick or whatever, that's the place to go for your little copy job. But if you have a little bit more sophisticated commercial printing job, like a book or a convention book or something, but you don't need 30,000 of them, you need 2,500 of them. Now you're looking for a commercial printer that's bigger than the little guy and smaller than the real big guys that drive the forklift trucks down by the airport. And
Right,
that's
yeah.
kind of our niche, that we do real good commercial printing that is that we have that niche in between the little guy and the huge guy. So
Sure, that makes sense.
that has worked out well for us. And being in business so long, I just look right at your job and hand it back to you and go, this isn't a job for me. This is a job for somebody that's bigger than me.
Right.
Or I hand that off too and say, you know what, this is a job for me. Maybe this is a job for something, a printer smaller than us. What I have left over from yesteryear of being in business for so long is all my older bindery equipment. So I have all kinds. I have 5 different ways that I can score and perforate, and online booklet making and online stitching and things like that, where the smaller printers don't have any of that stuff. So I kind of incorporated the old bindery world into the new digital world. You hear things like perfect binding. This is something I did for the township, and it's perfect bound. So it's a glued, scored, wraparound cover on a 170-page book. Not your average printer can do the perfect binding, but we have it. We also do metal binding. You're not really going to walk into a place that does metal binding or that kind of stuff. But with our old bindery equipment, we can do all the stuff of yesteryear. I still get a lot of people that workers that want this kind of stuff that flips over and has NCR that folds up, and then they write on it and they tear it off and they have a copy in their book. There was forms printers everywhere 30 years ago. But my people that work here still have the skills to make this stuff. We still have the equipment. So I have a whole bunch of customers that you just couldn't walk in the average printer and get a fold-over book like that. So it really helps me out having the old equipment.
I like how you incorporate what yesteryear and what today's print has to be, and everything nowadays. Everybody needs it yesterday, and they won't have the artwork to you until tomorrow. So,
or the artwork's not right. That a professional like you, we know your stuff is going to be right, prepared, and we hardly make any mistakes. And what I mean by that is, in the digital process, I can make you a proof and then show it to you, and you're going to know that my copy number 5,000 is going to look like that copy number 1 that you saw. In the offset days, that was tough to do. We weren't making those kind of proofs. So it has cut down significantly the problems in our business to being able to put the finished product in your hand before we start. But it comes from the person that prepares it correctly.
And in these day and age, do you get a lot? I'm sure you get a lot of files that are just like, it looks like someone like downloaded it off the Facebook or something and then uploaded it to you.
Yeah, it's not
Interesting.
It's not as bad as it used to be. There was a period of years where everything you would open up would not have bleeds, would not convert, would have stuff on top of each other on the file. and you fought that stuff for hours and hours, and then you would go on to the next job and fight that. It's really not as bad anymore, but really 20% of our work comes in that is not good to go where the people think it is good to go. So we have to have a computer graphics person give it back to them and try to guide them to tell them how to fix it if we can. But a tough part of the business is bad files. It ends up costing you a lot of money. We're so efficient with quickness, I could have a job done normally by the time we're trying to contact somebody about their bad files. So we waste a lot of momentum there.
Right.
And that's true. I've used Tom in the past, and I swear I gave a job and I was expecting it in 2 or 3 days, and I swear the next day you called and said it's done, and I was like dumbfounded. I'm like, what? I was not expecting that.
We're as I said, we're the volume, we're commercial guy. So before the pandemic, we were moving a lot of jobs. We could be moving 50 jobs a day out of here. So we run day, night, early in the morning sometimes. So we really knock it out. And one thing that I have done over the years, I have a little warehouse, and I buy most all of my paper on large skids. They're 2,000-pound skids. And we get really better pricing than the average print shop that would be our size or smaller. And we pass that along. We really do. We use that pricing of that paper. And I have never in 45 years charged anybody a rush charge either. So that's where the volume thing comes in. We just love to get our job in, get it out as quickly as possible. And, there's no real rush job, no charge. Now, I suppose if somebody was going to give me something at 11 o'clock at night and needed it in Baltimore by 9 in the morning, we would have to charge them something like that. But that's not a crazy request in our world here.
That's true. What is one of the biggest challenges you have running your business and also playing fire chief? Like, that's got to be a big challenge to keep you all together on the same page. Like, what is your biggest challenge you find? Especially with a fire, it could happen like any minute.
Yeah, we in Lower Merion, we go to a lot of calls. In Lower Merion Township, I think the last year number was about 2,700 calls. And I run actually out of 2 of the stations. I'm the fire chief of Ardmore, and then I also run where I live. So I do go to a lot of calls. You just get used to juggling it all. We have good staff that is left back, and they know. I think you heard a bell ring here a couple minutes ago when there was a fire call. They know, oh, geez, they're out for a while, and they just pick up on it. And as I said, unless we get too worn out, we always come back and finish our work that night or get on track. But every once in a while, you get a little worn out and at a fire, and it's tough to keep going. But we will make our deadline, or even we'll call our customer and say, "Look, you know who we are. We were out on 4 hours and some call today, and could I have a few more hours on your deadline tomorrow?" And people are sure, they work with you. You just got to be honest in this business, completely honest, and not tell somebody that you're going to do something that you can't pull off.
I was going to ask you, like, is that if someone wanted to start out a business now, say a print shop, what piece of advice would you give that person?
Really, you can't do it. And the reason you can't do it is the price of the equipment. Mm-hmm. If I handed you $1 million and said, go rent the place up the street, you would probably have trouble getting a print shop going because you don't have the customers, you don't have the volume. I got customers from day one. I have customers I still print from 1975 and 1976, still here today. But this equipment is really, the digital equipment is highly expensive to run, and it's a volume sport. So, somebody going out and say, I'm going to buy one of those machines and stick it in my garage, it's probably not going to happen. Where in the 70s, I could do that. I could buy an old worn out printing press for $500. I had the skills to be able to fix it up, run it for a while, make a few dollars, sell it for even more money, and then buy a better one and fix that one up. Those days are over.
Sure.
You need a sophisticated mechanic to come in and actually tweak all these electrical machines.
Do you have any other businesses in Ardmore that you find that your favorite, apart from your company? You know, being around town, do you have like a favorite place you like to go to in Ardmore? Like maybe a restaurant or a business that you think is like the quality business in Ardmore?
I mean, everybody seems to be my friend at Ardmore that owns businesses, and I love their businesses. I bought a couple cars off of Todd at Orman, more than a couple, probably more than a dozen, over the years. Or we go to the local restaurants, and in turn, they're customers. Like Bercy, a great customer for us. Before the pandemic, because we're all trying to find ourselves. But I try to deal with the customers in Ardmore, or the businesses in Ardmore, because I'm an Ardmore guy, and I just love to go in and see the local business person and buy an Ardmore if I can.
That's great. That's one of the little niches that I love about this town. How everyone is like a community, and everyone knows everybody, and everyone walks in and does business with everybody.
Yeah.
I prefer that personally than going over. Like, I'd rather go to Mapes myself than go over to Lowe's. You know what I mean? It's one of those type of places. That's how I feel. What would you give? What kind of advice did anybody give you that you thought was really good when you first started your business? Did you receive any type of advice?
Well, I did, and I really had to turn to people, because I'm this young kid in high school that has a business, and when I was 19 years old, I had a store over at Calder Avenue by Suburban Square, and I had no real business training other than I was a hardworking person. So there was a lot of influential people in my life. And I joined the Ardmore Rotary over 35 years ago. So there was a lot of quality business people there. And quite frankly, some of them took me under their wing and kind of helped guide me through the business. And one in particular, a Mainline Chamber of Commerce president at the time, Carl Scharfel. He was a great man, and we have the park that is named after him outside Bella Italia there. We were friends. I joined the Mainline Chamber of Commerce, and he was there to help guide me along at with my real early business days. There was other people, Seidenberg Luggage in Suburban Square, Dave Endy. Quite a bit older than me. As a matter of fact, I'm going to help celebrate on a Zoom meeting his 80th birthday this Saturday. He was another one, but a local business in Suburban Square that was not corporate. That was really cool for them. Another good friend that helped me out a lot, Watt and Dobson. They were an insurance company, and they were in Ardmore, and they were on Calder Avenue. And the owner of that just recently passed away this year, but I was lifelong friends with all these people that really helped me along and helped guide me in the business side.
Mm-hmm. So they were an asset to you. You looked up to these folks.
Mm-hmm. Like pulled information as you needed it, kind of.
Absolutely. Life has changed. The Ardmore Rotary Club back then was 150 members, and they were They were leaders from the community, and just harder to get those business groups with those kind of numbers anymore. But at one point, now I'm an old guy, but I was the youngest person ever to join the Ardmore Rotary. And then, I'm in my 20s, and then I say, geez, I've been in business for 14 years. And yeah, right. It really was the truth.
That's
Now,
interesting.
has for a lot of us, obviously this pandemic has hurt a lot of us. Has it pivoted you in any way? Do you see a silver lining for yourself with your company when this is, so I guess, quote unquote, over?
Well, both my jobs are real difficult. Being the fire chief of an organization during a pandemic, when there's not a rule book right out of the gate, was and still is a very difficult task. We all do what we can do, but we could earlier on, we would have simple calls that should take 10 minutes that would take 90 minutes due to the decontamination process. And then trying to keep all your employees and firefighters safe. And we still have programs in place to do that. So that's very, very, very difficult. And my second job here at Hayden Printing, that was difficult because a lot of my customers are gone, a lot of them. I would say that the first month in March and April, we were down 80% in business, and now we're still off 35%, and I don't see that coming back quickly. Because if you would go to a convention at the convention center, I'm the guy that might have printed the books that they hand you when you arrive at the door. If you went to a fancy affair and it had a program and an invitation and it was, say, well, Apple Ford, they're a customer of mine, those are all done. There is so many businesses that are trying to hang on and struggle that they're certainly not ordering printing. Then I have all my restaurants, so the menu business has changed. So extremely difficult. We were able to do a lot more with fewer employees, but we hope to get them back. And I'm proud that during this whole time, I have paid our employees' benefits 100% and their copay, even if they're not here, since
Awesome.
the third week in March. So that's very important to me. But looking down the road, I just don't know whether this thing's going to snap back in October or November. So we've truly been affected by it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I feel your pain as well, and I don't see those. I'm trying to look at the silver lining that it's going to eventually come back and people are going to be stronger, and I think people are going to be doing business a little bit differently moving forward and being a little bit more cautious. But like anything else, I hope everyone is going to snap out of this. And I thank you to being our local fire chief, that you're running around raggedly and doing all these extra precautions just for us as the community. I really appreciate that, and I thank you.
Yeah, just even something like training and all those months of putting together Zoom programs for our own training and things like that. Very difficult. Our firehouse still is on lockdown to this day to the general public because our staff scrubs and decontaminates after every call and every day in the firehouse. And we got to keep it safe, because if it would take a run through there and take out the firemen, we would really have a problem.
Oh, definitely.
Our full-time staff has done an absolute incredible job, I say, to keep us safe. And I tell them that publicly, and I have a chance.
I appreciate them for that.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely appreciate that as well, Tom. So thank you for that. Before we wrap this up, is there anything that you'd like to say? We're rolling the red carpet out for you, so the floor is yours.
Well, I think because we're talking printing, but we end up with my other job. I just want to mention a couple things that I do commercially that people might not know that I do, and I have picked up some business for oddball things. I have commercial laminating. So it's not the kind of thing that I want somebody to come in with their driver's license and say, can you turn on your commercial lamination equipment and can you do my license? And I say, no, I do quantity. And they'll say, well, do my social security card. That's not it. But this is a perfect example of a laminated, run to spec. I've done a bunch of closed seat signs for buses. So some of the transit buses you see go around, and they tie them on there and they can wipe them off. So I have commercial lamination. I have done a lot for the local schools that are trying to bring their people back, and that gives them instructions, everything from the lavatory and instructions to where to be in the hallway. But my commercial lamination stuff, I can do real big stuff, real thick stuff, round corners, all kinds of stuff. So that's been another oddball thing that has taken off a little bit. Is today I can print on paper that can be wiped off, can't be torn, and it is chemical resistant. This is actually paper. So it's a safety guide made out of paper that can be wiped down. Also maps. This happens to be township sewer department or whatever. They can go out there, throw this in a rainstorm on the hood of their truck, read it, wipe it off, and put it away. So there's a few things that we do. And then one other thing, because I think I'm the only guy, because I had a couple of these jobs last year around here that can do 30-inch digital. And what that is real long job, inexpensively and low quantity, that folds down into an 8.5, 11. So it's actually a 6-page, 8.5, 11 thing. The reason I know that is I had to get somebody to do some of these for me, and I had to travel to Wilmington, Delaware, and I had called every printer between here and there. But now we have 2 machines that actually do the 30-inch in-house, and it's a excellent addition to what we do. We still do the simple tickets that people have, but there's not a lot of activity out there for people getting tickets.
Right.
But they can do them full color. I can do them 2 sides. They perforate. I can number them in sequence. I can put them in books. So if I turn the clock back, I don't even want to say it, 40 years, I was in the ticket business and I sold them to a lot of other printers. So we're still in the ticket business, and we do all kinds of stuff. So really, if I'm wrapping up, I love the town of Ardmore. As I said, I started out here, and I've kind of committed my life to the town of Ardmore at this point. And
oh, you definitely did.
Yeah. Really, I've been 45 years in the Lower Fire Department here and the Marion Fire Company of Ardmore. So, and if you're available during the day for a firehouse, that's even more special, because there's a lot more that goes on during the day. There's more elevator rescues and commercial truck fires and things like that over the years, and so we get a little bit more work during the day. So I had a great fire career being around during the day, and just kind of committed to my friends here in Ardmore.
You definitely do. And I got to say, like, hands down, you're probably the only name I hear all the time, if not every day. Someone knows you, someone talks about you, and everyone speaks very highly of you. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to reach out and say, give you homage and thank you.
And half of it might have been good.
Most.
That's one of the reasons why we wanted to bring you on our show and thank you. Pay homage to you and let everyone know what Hayden Printing's doing. They're staying safe. They're doing everything they can to stay safe, and they're keeping everyone going. So thank you.
Keep everyone safe, safe in 2 ways. But with that, Tom, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Josh.
My pleasure. For everyone that's watching, we'd like to thank you guys for tuning in. As always, new episodes come out every Tuesday at noon. And until the next one, we will see you then.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.